Okay, let's talk about some video players, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And what that means is you're going to look at not only your hero players in the game, but also the villains and anyone else within the game. I mean, this really has to have some thought process. So once you've done your storytelling component, and then you start creating those game players, this is where all of this comes in. So the goals of each character, and before I begin, I want to tell you at the end of this, and also in the resources area, this information is all from like the first two resources. It's just a heads up. Okay, I mean, I could not have done it better than these two people. Actually, the first one was probably the original, and then the second one did some work. But the goals of the character, what does the character do? Well, you know, they do enhance the story. They do bring that story to life. And sometimes a person can become really attached to the character in the game. So, you know, you really need to think about that. And they have to be, in that part where it says credible, they have to be credible. You can't have some really crazy avatar in there doing something that was meant to be done. Well, okay, so the picture is the soldier, and I'm sure some of you know what game this is from. So let's say that was actually Mario holding the weapon. You know, it just doesn't work. They have to be credible, and they have to be memorable. So now that took me 2 minutes just to get through 2 slides. So we're going to start talking fast because you can stop and read the slides. Now, you can have avatars that the players create themselves, or you can have avatars that are specific to the game. You need to have some control mechanisms on how the avatars work. You need to have their character. That comes into your storyline of what the avatars are. How are they displayed? What kind of personalities do they have? Sometimes in the non-specific, the designers of the non-specific, they're limited. And so think of Dead Space's Isaac Clarke when you think of this. You know, the designer has to do exactly what they have to do. The specific avatar actually has a goal in the game. This avatar does something in the game to help someone else or help themselves or whatever it is. The personality is that. It's the avatar's personality, and the person playing the game can identify with that character but can never become that character. Semi-specific avatars are partially characterized, and they're cartoonish. So kind of, you know, think of Mario and Lara Croft. Now, the control mechanisms, remember I said you have to control. How are the avatars controlled? This is, do you point and click? Do you move the mouse towards, you know, usually that's like a 2D game, or do you actually control them by using keyboard shortcuts or a game control console shortcut? Now, when you're designing your avatars, they need to be designed in a way that relates to what kind of avatar they are. So that is why it's very important to have that storytelling in there. There's all kinds of different kinds of avatars. There's humanoids, non-humanoids, and hybrids. This just all depends upon what style of game you are creating. Now, when you define the attributes of the avatar, you know, there's a description here between Superman and Batman, and if you really look at them and what they are meant and what their characters are, how they are dressed and how they look is very, very important. Also, does your avatar have a sidekick? What does the sidekick do? Is the sidekick there to assist, or is the sidekick there to be their own and move on and become their own player? Now, all avatars have to be story-driven. You know, I keep saying that. Your story, your story, your story. Here's something about the dimensionality of the characters. You need to really understand what 0, 1, 2, and 3 dimensional mean. If you don't know that by now, you might want to email me and ask. It's important if your avatars are using a language, what does it sound like? Does it sound like their character? Have you ever had someone speak to you who just had some helium and their voice is that crazy high-pitched voice? Well, that's this. You don't want your soldier out there talking in a women's tone. So those are important things. Now your characters have to be believable. Remember we talked about they have to be believable, and that's credible. So you have to answer a few questions, all right? And your believable characters, they need to have some kind of a relationship with the game. There are 3 golden guidelines for a player, so make sure that you look at that. Now your character's growth. Does your character grow throughout the game? Do they get stronger? Do they get weaker? Do they get older? What is it about your player's growth that happens in the game? So now you have all kinds of different styles of players. You have your heroes and your mentors. Mentors are a good thing to have. Your higher self, which, well, that's kind of the godlike. And your ally. You always need somebody to be an ally. Well, not always. I'm going to take that word always out. But allies are good. You also have your shapeshifters, your guardians, your tricksters, your herald, and your shadow. Now think about the villain. Let's stop here for just a moment and think about the villain. Sometimes when you're playing a game, even the villain is likable. Why is the villain likable? Why do we have villains in the game? What is it about that bad person that brings the game to life? I mean, they're actually very important. So I just want to throw that out there. And here's a bunch of resources. So do me a favor, and these are just the first 2 resources are also available down below this video. And the rest of these are where I got the images because, I don't want to do any copyright infringement. So hey, get on out about it.